And welcome to the Diablo Podcast, your home for Diablo diehards, Diablo tryhards, hardcore and casual alike. I am your host, Xanth, and I am joined today by the one and only, my favorite co-host, Nineball.
Oh, hi. I won't tell nerd words.
Well, you're the only one with the co-host title. And we are brought to you by PureDiablo.com, your home for an expansive wiki, an ever-growing community, and of course, this podcast. And before we get into it, I want to give a shout out to anybody who's been posting up some commentary over on the Apple Podcasts. So shout out first, and if I apologize if I butcher anyone's screen name, to Pure Invasion over on the Apple Podcast Canada. So apparently the comments are split by region. So there's a whole Apple Podcast Canada that I never see, but I do get notified when we get some comments. Pure Vision does give some good gentle feedback, audio issues. Guys, one thing I will point out with this podcast, and we're going to dig into a lot of stuff today. We're going to talk about the new season. We're going to talk about duping. We're going to talk about cow levels, and then BlizzCon. The big thing with this podcast is nobody pays us. So there's still hiccups, and I apologize if you've been carrying through. Some of our episodes are hit and miss, but we're not getting paid yet. So once that money comes in, and once the cash starts rolling, we're going to fund it right into here. But we're not going to ask for your money, um, because that's just not how this works. So once somebody's like, "Oh man, these guys could use X, Y, and Z," it's going right into making this better. Uh, so
And as a
expect that.
counterpoint, we also will accept money to stop talking, or at least I would.
Um, yeah, no, I would do that too. I would also do that. And then shout out to, and this one I will just say letters because it's FJDJDHWBSB and D, and there isn't a vowel in there, so I don't know how I'm supposed to say that. I need vowels, but they gave a nice little shout out on that, asking for some PvP coverage, and I think we could do that at some point. Nightfall, um, with a one-star review, but still a review, and I appreciate those too. Bad audio quality. Um, and then Brennan Redbar over on Apple Podcasts in Canada with a five-star review. Good podcast, great takes. So, thank you to anybody who is one taking the time to listen, taking the time to give us a little bit of feedback because, we do want to get better. But, hey, thanks for listening ultimately. And we're going to keep pumping them out until you pay us not to. Until you pay us not to.
Just
Okay,
saying, it's an option on the table.
it really is. We really need to consider that. That is a great way. So we didn't do a podcast last week. We had the most recent uh, fireside chat, and then it was so close to release, and schedules just didn't line up. But now that season two's gone live, there's no point in even talking about it because we want to talk about season two. So let's jump into the biggest news, and it's comical in some ways. Diablo 4 trading has been disabled again. And
Again.
Leviathan, it is October 23rd. Trading disabled again due to another duping exploit that was found. Any surprise there, Neville?
I mean, it's like one of those ones where I think that there was a Reddit comment that was just like, is anybody really surprised? This is something that's like older than Diablo itself, so uh I don't know how they handle things like on Path of Exile, but it definitely is a bane. It always has been a bane of like the Diablo community as far back as we can remember. Diablo 1 and all sorts of other things that you can do, just taking advantage of things in the netcode. So uh, I mostly end up playing like solo. Trading isn't something that really matters to me, quite so much. So I'm not affected by this. I hope that they do, implement the fix and get it back on. Especially because now is a great time. You can trade, the materials to summon the new bosses and such. So there is giving some, opportunity there to create some sort of like little trade or economy or anything like that. Because it could even just be like, hey, I have a femur who has a head, like just to go through and benefit everybody. But yeah, it's uh, I would be surprised, if there is maybe not like say like every patch or every season, but I would be surprised, if we go years without some sort of like duping bug, being implemented that they have to like shut down trading or something, in order to go through and patch in a fix real quick.
It is a tale as old as time. Duping and Diablo, they do go hand in hand. Um, I'm not affected, and I think you kind of alluded to it as well. I'm not affected by trading being disabled right now because I've never traded anything in Diablo 4. Um, but those of you guys out there in the community who are relying on this and do enjoy that capability, it is a bummer. I mean, it's a bummer when you have part or functionality, a functional part of the game that is taken away from you. So here's to hoping they fix it. But it is comical to kind of bring up because we did see this in season one as well. Um, uh, Hopefully, it's just not a reoccurring thing. There are those who might want to bring up that maybe this is a PTR kind of thing, that if we had a PTR, we might catch this. Um, I'm still going to advocate for a PTR all the time, but hey, whatever. It's cool. It'll be fixed. We're going to live our lives. And honestly, I'm having so much fun in this season that I'm not phased. We're going to get to that though, because in tandem with trading going down, there might be a cow level. Uh,
Yes.
so it's been data mined, the theories and how to go about finding a cow level. It is so synonymous with Diablo, and to have Diablo 4 launch without it, people are searching, scrounging, trying to find every bit and piece of information that they can on how to do this. And it seems like we're almost there. Um,
Getting closer at least.
yeah, so the new patch brings it in, and we've now found a way to kill 666 cows to find ourselves a dusty stamina potion to get some keys.
Almost.
Almost.
Yeah. So it was what is it? So there is the Skosglen Highlands, which if you look at the map and zoom in on that particular area, is in the shape of a cow's head. With the Wild Highlands is apparently also a breed of cow. I did not know that, but just another
I'm from
connection
Wisconsin and
there.
I had no idea. So
Yeah, but you for killing 666 cows will drop one item. And so there's three. There's the bloody wooden shard, which of course is the shard of Wirt's leg. You have the intricate metallic fragment with a little reference to a Roderick cube, and then finally a musty tome, which is the tome of town portals. And then the three of those can then be taken to the oxen statues in Kedbardu, which, when you interact with it with those three artifacts in hand, will give you the strange key, which then will unlock the Forlorn Hovel, which is a cellar in the Highlands, which is a cellar full of cows. And if you kill all of the cows, they will drop a like basically a dried up stamina potion.
That's where we are
And
right now.
yeah, and so apparently, it is that the items itself, in order to go through and farm and to get those pieces, that you have to kill the 666 cows, and it will drop one. And then there's a 1 week lockout, so you can't get the next piece for another week. You have to wait 7 days in order to go through and get the next one. But they're tradable, So I believe that's what people have been going through and doing. Is that once this was discovered, a bunch of people are just going through killing and you know trading the items to get all three on one person to activate it. And right now, once you kill the last cow in the Forlorn Hovel, it drops a stamina potion, and it makes reference to it's all dried up. It says recommend not consuming this, but if you consume it, it gives you just a 5 minute unknown buff. And that's where the trail ends so far because no one knows what to do with it. This
And
it just it remind. Go ahead.
there is an entire Discord devoted to this mystery. Um, and good on them for digging into it and getting us this far. I'm really curious where the next step is, and I would expect either we're hitting a dead end right now because it's not put in, or they're going to figure it out in the next 48 hours.
Yeah. It's interesting because if it's anything like what World of Warcraft has done with some of its like secrets that it's done in the past, that they with the WoW team that they had found a way to encrypt the strings that were involved with the quests and such, and that they would unencrypt in real time. And so it prevented people from being able to just go through and data mine the answers or where the NPCs were and things like that. And so it wasn't until it was like unlocked on a server that the next step would become unencrypted. I don't know for sure if there was like a timetable involved for that, until it like gets like patched in and updated for like all the client side stuff so that way you can actually interact and do the next step. But I remember like one of the last ones that I did was like the hive mind mount because that one required an entire party, and it was literally like you had to go to the zone and talk to this person, and he gives you a buff that only lasts for like 5 minutes, and then you can't fly. You have to swim through the zone over to this other section or whatever that literally is like 4 minutes away. Kill this one mob in order to get an item that gives you another buff to then go to the other side of the zone to kill that to get another buff, and you're like running all over the place. So it was like very, very specific timed things that you had to trigger in order. And if you failed any of it, you had to start all over. And there's a lot of sorry. There's just a lot of like intricate steps were involved, and just the fact that someone literally had to go through and find this stuff, without just like data mining it. They're like having to do it in the game, talking to all the various random NPCs, finding various random people that you could interact with what is the purpose of this item, like this little junk item, and then figuring out that it has some connection to something that was like in the game file, because they're like some of the WoW secrets like took a year or more to unlock.
Selfishly, I do not want the cow level to be something that we can only do once a week. Um, that would be that's too long. I would like it to. I would like to do it every 5 minutes, ideally. I think that
Yeah.
is the right amount of time between cow levels. 5, 10 minutes,
So yeah,
and then
the
that's all
the
you do for 20 years.
yeah, the one thing is I haven't looked into it like completely because I don't know like if the strange key is consumed when you go into the cellar. Like, do you have to farm up all three pieces every time to get another key to get another potion? How often can you farm the potion in there?
Ooh.
I'm not sure. So
Well, I'm sure if anybody knows, they're going to sound off in the comments because we need this. We need this information. Um, okay. So we got cool stuff. Well, trading being disabled isn't cool, but account level's cool. All right, let's get into it. Let's get into Season of Blood, or perhaps
There,
the Season of Redemption. Um,
there is one more thing before we get into that I think you missed.
okay, throw it at me. What did I
Uh,
miss?
Yoshi P, the executive producer for Final Fantasy 14, wants to do a collaboration with Diablo.
Yeah, I did read that earlier today. I'm is that a passing comment? Is that a hey, that would be really kind of cool, or is that a comment with legs? Is that a comment that could
He
be potentially a future game?
I don't know. I think it would, if anything, it would be kind of like because see, in Final Fantasy 14, they've done a bunch of crossover events with like Capcom and other companies where you can fight like, there'd be a Final Fantasy boss and Monster Hunter, and then like in Final Fantasy 14, you'd fight like a Rathalos or something like that would actually like be in the something from Monster Hunter would then physically be in Final Fantasy 14 that you could go through and fight. So they've done crossover events with other IPs before. It's not out of their wheelhouse, So I guess that was one of those ones. It probably is more up to Blizzard than it is on the other side because Square
I
Enix
mean,
has been willing to play ball with other distributors.
yeah, but how much does the Xbox acquisition get in the way of that then?
I mean, Square games are on. You can play Final Fantasy 14 on Xbox.
Can you play Final Fantasy 16 on Xbox?
I have no idea.
No. PlayStation exclusive. Um, doesn't mean that it's an impossibility, but I don't know. I'm not going to turn it down. I think that would be awesome. Um,
Yeah.
Final Fantasy 16 it is downstairs right now. I could play it. I've been too bogged down with everything else to start. These are good things. Looking forward to digging in sometime next year.
And and to correct myself, I thought it was out already. I don't actually play Final Fantasy 14. It's coming into open beta with the full release of Final Fantasy 14 on Xbox next year.
There you go. Um,
Yeah.
so we'll see. Either way, that is exciting. Um, who knows where it goes? Okay, Season of Blood. How did your season start?
With
And
a
then we'll
whimper.
dig into the nitty gritty. How did your season start?
Yeah. My season started with me playing for like an hour and then passing out because they released it on a Tuesday. But it was also just last week was probably one of the worst weeks that they absolutely could have done. I say that this week would probably actually be even worse for them to have released it. It was an extremely busy week for me, all things considered. So I really only got to play it like Friday and Sunday were like the only big days I had a chance to actually like hunker down and sink my teeth into the game. I think
Uh,
maybe like the Tuesday, going into Friday, I think I maybe played like 4 hours. So this is definitely one of my biggest pieces of feedback. I absolutely love all the season, the mechanics and stuff like that. But can we not release on a Tuesday, please?
yeah, I will agree. The Tuesday release did not feel great. Um, I do like even a Thursday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, that's
Yeah,
fine. Um, but the Tuesday I'm not a huge fan of. I a little bit like you, it was a rough week for me. It was parent teacher conferences last week, so it was 12-hour work days, and then you're kind of burned out. And then I foolishly on Tuesday night signed up to cast the Race for World First with the fellows over at Diablo Builds. One absolutely phenomenal experience being able to go in and just chat about Diablo and to watch a bunch of people play at an extremely high level. By the time I came in, players are already um, in the 70s. So it had been 10 hours since the season started, and the season was delayed, right? We had a couple
Hmm.
hour delay in there. Um, and good on Blizzard for putting that delay out. I know it sucked at the time, but for them to say, look, it's not going to work. We don't want you to deal with a bunch of frustrations. Give us a few more hours and then we'll be good to go. Um, that's great by me. So it was 10 hours already. I foolishly signed up to be on until 3 in the morning here
Ouch.
because I couldn't properly convert the military time that was on the sign up sheet and the
Uh,
fact that the military time was also in Pacific. So there were too many mental gymnastics for me to go through there. So I was on for I was on for a little while. I did a 5 hour shift, and by the end of that 5 hours, we saw them closing in on 90. So when I woke up 4 hours later, they had already hit 100. So we had 100 hit on both softcore and hardcore in under 24 hours, which was absolutely insane. It goes back to what we had seen in that first fireside chat about, Joe Shelley had mentioned that the 1 to 100 was going to be extremely truncated, 40% faster. But to see it go that quickly was insane. Shout out to Oogie Boogie, who did it for the second season in a row in hardcore. After losing his duo partner in the 80s. It was around level 80 where he lost his partner, and I thought maybe somebody would catch up, but they didn't. But absolutely insane times for this run. In fact, I was scheduled to go again the next night around the same time because, again, I'm an idiot. And I was very happy and exhausted that I didn't have to go for round two because there was very little of me left. I'm still kind of recovering from it, but you can probably hear my voice has started to trail. A combination of talking all night, plus then all day, and then another all day experience. My voice is just slowly starting to come back, but absolutely insane. And I was so excited to dig in, even though I was exhausted the next day. I was absolutely knackered. But I still dove in for about 3 hours the following night because I wanted to play. So I got to ask, what class did you play?
oh, this will be a shock to everyone, but I decided to play a necromancer.
There is a shock. I put it out there on Twitter, and I'm not going to call it X. I don't care what you name it, Elon. It's always going to be Twitter. I put it out there on Twitter um,
I,
that
I mean, every single news publication out there still will put like X, formerly known
formerly
as
known
Twitter,
as
or Twitter, now known as X, but
yeah.
it never is escaping Twitter.
It
Um,
just you can't. I put it out there that I was going to roll a Necromancer first after watching Macro and seeing what was up. I got to level 5 and I thought I got I got how many more? You know what? I'm gonna go. What's a druid like these days? And immediately went back to druid because that's where I felt home. I had to learn
we
so
got
many
you for
new
20
things.
minutes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was like, what? This doesn't feel right. I will go back, and we'll talk about that as we talk about this season. I'm definitely going to go back. Um, so currently, I am level 62 hardcore druid right now, uh, and I am absolutely loving it. The
Hmm.
feel of this season is like night and day to season one. By at this point in season one, I was like kind of done. And I think we had talked about it on the podcast where it's just like we had rehashed the same things. Nothing felt as good. There wasn't as much of a push to kind of keep playing. And I really don't have that. I have my criticisms of this season, and it's more of the game as a whole. But this season just feels good. And am I wrong, Nimeball?
Oh no, they just like being able to like pop into a dungeon to get a I'm only like 54. but like like even just being in the 40s, popping into a dungeon to get a codex of power like unlock, and then also like getting like almost an entire level out of it, whereas before you'd just be kind of like still like grinding and grinding and grinding, like uh not like going through focusing on getting like potions, or not potions but elixirs and such, and like not noticing not having the 5% experience boost, and also feeling not as compelled to have it up all of the time just because of how much of a drag leveling was prior to that. It really like feels like that it's making a difference, even just doing a world boss like for the experience, at these levels feels good. Yeah, the whole process feels a hell of a lot better. Not being like absolutely flooded with gear in World Tier 3. Now that you only see the sacred pieces drop and everything else, just becomes the crafting materials, it's so much better. I'm not like, oh crap, I accidentally picked up a non-sacred piece. Like, let me go through and like drop it or salvage it or whatever. Now it, just being able to focus on the things that you're looking for while they drop on the ground, a great improvement. And then the what is it, the vampiric hunting grounds, or whatever they're called, those zones are amazing. That you can just run out of packs. Let me just go farm some vampires for like 30 minutes and gain like a level and a half.
I think I did 1 through 50 entirely in those zones. I I I felt no pull to do anything else. I didn't even do like the main quest line outside of unlocking vampiric powers until much later. I was just having so much fun, like the combination of having the whispers plus the season mechanic, so
Mm-hmm.
that I'm getting whisper experience and gear from that. I'm getting gear from the drops already, and then I'm improving my vampiric powers. And then I could use all those little blood vials to create like a super summon and do a bunch of fighting then and get a bunch of gear from all those guys. Like everything about the zone just works.
Yeah,
And then the second it's over, there's another one happening
another
somewhere
one.
else.
Yeah.
It is, you don't have to wait. You can judge like, oh, it's only got 5 minutes left. Oh, crap. I guess I'll sit in town and look at a couple of things and then I'll go join the next one. Like, it has really drawn as a nice comparison. And one of the bigger complaints now is how hell tides are managed. And that since there are bigger gaps between hell tide and you need hell tides to farm for materials for one of the new bosses, they don't feel as good. Whereas Helltide was one of my favorite parts prior, by comparison and ease of access, this is significantly better.
Yeah. Though there was one thing. This isn't my own opinion, though. I'm definitely subscribing to this one. There was a comment that I had seen that talked about it, that hell tides are required to be inferior. Because the hell tide can't be better than the seasonal mechanic. It can't. So if the hell tide was brought up to what this season mechanic is, this season zone is doing, well, then the next season has to be even better than that. Which means that then, no matter how good it is, if the hell tides are worse, people will make that comparison. And so hell tides will just always have to be the baseline, and because the season mechanics will always have to be superior, because there's a reason, getting, materials, living metal, for the boss, getting your initial investment of forgotten souls and fiend roses and all other types of stuff for enchanting and other things. um uh you'll always have, like, you kind of have to go through and do that, and then all the rest of your time can be spent on the whatever the seasonal mechanic or the seasonal zone or anything like that is going to be. Now, if there's ever a season that doesn't have like one of these things, like season one didn't have a malignant zone, or or anything, um, then you could probably try and fit something in for that season to like buff the Hell Tide, but the Hell Tide does always kind of have to be like base level, and it actually giving you time to farm. Because if the Hell Tide was like always up, you're like, well, should I farm the vampires because it's better experience, but I really need some Forgotten Souls? Should I go and do the Helltide? What should I do? Whereas with the Helltide being a limited event, you see it and be like, I know that it's not as like good experience or items and stuff like that, but I need to get some Forgotten Souls. So I'm just gonna go through and do that. I'm gonna unlock like a mystery chest or two, and then I'll be done, and then I'll go back to the vampires, which will always be there. It kind of gives you like that targeted far. It forces you into the targeted farming because of the limited time frame.
I think that's fair. Um, I can get that perspective. It's just really hard during the season to see that, I
You
guess,
know,
because you're just enjoying the vampire zones, and then you're just like, oh, Helltide's not up for another hour. I guess I'll do something else. And to its credit, there's plenty of something else to do unless you really need those materials from Helltide. Um,
yeah.
then you're stuck. And I would imagine there's got to be a way to kind of alleviate those choke points. Unfortunately, it's not trading at the moment, but you know, something else then, something else to alleviate that so that you have a different route uh, to get that, living steel or whatever else it might be.
It doesn't mean that they still can't do some improvements to Hell Tides,
Right.
but they can't make it like as good as what the vampire zones are right now.
Yeah. I will say it is nice to return to the overworld instead of just being stuck in nightmare dungeons, like to actually be
Hmm.
out in the world, jumping around. In tandem with that, and I think we're going to kind of bounce a bit here tonight, but the horse, oh my God, the horse. It feels so good. It is so much better. It is everything I wanted the mount to be when we first saw it, instead of the janky kind of horsey that we got this time around. It just feels natural. I can pop off it
Hmm.
and then pop right back on, which was
Yeah.
always like I felt like I made that mistake
You,
uh, 10 times a session where I would pop off and be like, oh crap, I wanted to get back on and I can't. I have to wait. None of that. It is so much nicer.
you could also pop onto the horse and then like use your attack, because like I prior to the season I couldn't even remember what the dismount attack was because it was like, in a Helltide, I'm just gonna run from one event to the next, and that wouldn't be enough time for the attack to come off of cooldown from mounting. Now I actually can use the bone spears, like the bone spear wall thing, in order to go through and, pop off and such. Doesn't do anything, but it's
Right.
cool, it's neat, it's something, it stuns things.
It's nice to have more options,
You know.
really. Um, yeah, and it has felt so much better. That small quality of life really adding up to make Diablo a good game. I think it's unfortunate that this is what we see in season two. Like this would have been so much better for season one, for anybody who might have dropped the game along the way. Because if you're looking for optimism around the game, it feels a lot better. Like the game itself feels good, but like the general sentiment of the community feels even better. Um,
Oh yeah,
like Diablo Reddit's not super toxic right now. I mean, and granted, it easily can be. We're still early. It's a week into the season, but man, do I feel a lot better about where the game is going.
for sure.
So, in tandem with our fancy pony and our new vampire zones, have you gotten a chance to do any target farming?
I have not. I killed Vasherin once, which of course isn't anything new because we had him last season. But I have enough living metal in order to summon the new boss, but I'm just holding off till I get to World Tier 4. Um, before I start like throwing those materials at summoning things. So yeah, I haven't started any of that yet.
So I'm hanging out in World Tier 3 right now because, 62, playing hardcore. I'm going to play it safe. But I've been playing a pulverized druid predominantly since, you know, uh, day one.
Hmm.
And and Varshan's got the great staff of the throne. And that would allow me to play a werewolf who hits things with a shred, or I should say a claw, and his other basic attack. And I wanted that. I wanted that bad. And I'm proud to say I'm the owner of three of them right now because I was able to go in, do that fight relatively quickly. I was already getting rewarded for the body parts from hanging out in the vampire zones. And then I was able to change my build because of something that I did in game. I didn't have to rely completely on RNG that I might get this. It being World Tier 3, it's always iffy to see if that would even happen anyway. Um, I played, obviously we do a Diablo podcast. I played a lot of Diablo. I've never found this staff before. So to be able to now have three of them, so when this character dies, I've already got a backup and to play a play style that I wasn't able to get going before and to do it early. Obviously when I get to World Tier 4, I'm going to want the ancestral version of it, but I was able to go in and get a version to get that build up and going now instead of 20 levels later. That's
Yep.
so nice. It is so much better to not be gated by like World Tier 3 being essentially just like, all right, I need to grind out 20 levels. So
Yeah.
then my build can come online. No, you've got access now. Tempest Roar and Dolmen Stone for Druid are stuck on Duriel, and that is World Tier 4. So that's fine. But I still have options. Uh, and Pulverized Druid is still awesome, and it is great, but I've
It's
done it.
awesomer.
Right.
Yeah.
But
But I'm playing a blood necro right now, and the overpower changes are significant.
right. It's just I wanted to do something different, and it's been so much more fun to do that, right? To have the option, and then hey, if I want to make that work, I know what I need to do. I'm gonna go grind this gear, and it's made me so much more optimistic for World Tier 4 because then I can go and do that, which in tandem goes to my next point. The game now feels way more alt friendly than what it had been in the past. Um, the thought of having to go and grind out gear for a new class and hope that RNG blesses you to make that build work with a limited time frame was daunting. Whereas I've already like mentally lined up like three or four other builds I want to try on different classes. Like watching the Lightning Ball Sorcerer just wreck things left and right. Uh, that looks pretty cool. And also, I can make that happen. Um, maybe I'll try a Barbarian, right? Maybe I will make my way to a Necro. I've already got the character. He's level 5, like
Right
halfway there,
there,
right?
saves you 20 minutes.
Yeah, so he's ready to rock. But knowing that, it's not going to be strictly based on blind luck. I have the materials. I can go grind up those other pieces of gear to really make things click is nice. It is so much nicer. Um, and yeah, I have absolutely loved it. And I'm looking forward to hearing when you're able to grind out your pieces that you're waiting for.
Which is, one of those ones where it's just it brings up an interesting point of being able to target farm, especially for like a druid, where there are certain play styles that you literally cannot do without a unique. And like my experience with the necromancer last season, where I was playing a minion necromancer, and the damage would drop off just like so quickly that I wasn't finding the Mendelin ring, I wasn't finding a Death Speaker pendant. So I wasn't finding any of those things to actually make like the build come online in World Tier 4. And so it was beginning to be a struggle until I ended up finding both of them, and then like that last little push at the end of the season was super easy. Um, with the like say with the blood necromancer, there's no like real like build defining unique for that playstyle. Just kind of like with the minion necromancer, is just like it changes the playstyle like a lot, but it just makes you better. Um, that when you have things like that for the druid or any other classes that might have that, where you can only play this build if you have this unique, that has to have the option to be able to target farm it to get it online, because that's one of the things that affected Diablo 3 when they got rid of trading, with loot 2.0, and they put everything into the sets. So the only way to play any of the viable builds was to have that set, meaning legendaries and set pieces and all those other things literally had to drop like candy. And it was one of the things that they pushed forward with Hadrig's gift to give you a set at the beginning. I would like to see more focus on having some of those kind of like build defining abilities on legendary aspects, so that they're easier to acquire, and also, you know, have maybe some potential for trading them or adding them into like the seasonal journey or something like that. Just so you can get builds online faster, and then make the uniques in other aspects and such, just make the build better. So that was the case. It wasn't the case for everything like in Diablo 2, but it was the case for the majority of things in Diablo 2. You
I think
didn't.
you're getting into what would then be my biggest criticism of Diablo 4 that remains is itemization, right?
Yeah.
Seems like all the pieces are now in place. Like the game feels really good. I have different options to go and play that don't feel like it has to be one or the other.
Hmm.
It's just itemization. If that could be reworked, and that is not a season 3 thing.
Yeah.
Um, that's a season 6 thing maybe. But if I have all these cool tools and then the reward for utilizing them is better gear that actually does something, that's going to feel good. And I think what you're getting at is that the push away from like let's put power onto aspects, let's put power onto the skill tree, and let's have items make that better, not define
I
it.
I guess in a certain sense, it isn't so much that, is just because like right now a lot of that like item power is pushed on to having a unique, and they fix part of the problem of I cannot play a Tempest Roar build because a Tempest Roar hasn't dropped for me and I'm level 94. When is it gonna drop? That to make those powers more accessible, and to make it more accessible is to remove it from uniques and put it onto legendary aspects. And even so much, use the Codex of Power system and make some of those build defining effects. Because like imagine if like the ability to make the Tempest Roar, which turns storm skills into werewolf skills. Imagine if that was an aspect that you could unlock in a Codex of Power by doing a dungeon, and so that way that build could be online level 5. You're good to go. And that way you could just play like a Tempest Roar werewolf the entire time. We do have a good kind of like measure in place now where you can target farm it. As you mentioned, though, it is locked to World Tier 4. It's locked to Duriel, which isn't like an incredibly terribly difficult fight. From what I've been told. But it is something that, especially like if you're like for you playing hardcore, you're probably not even going to attempt them to like 80 plus to give it a shot. And it's not guaranteed to drop like your first run. You probably have to do it a couple times in order to go through and get it, but it's still that there's a reasonable expectation that I can have a Tempest Roar build online at level 80, and that that's fine. I just feel as if for like the itemization that like if I want to play a minion necromancer or a summoner build, I shouldn't have to wait on an RNG to get a ring to drop in order to play it. I should just be able to play it, and then that ring makes the build better, which I think that they probably have fixed a little bit. They significantly buffed minion scaling. I'm playing a blood necromancer this season, so I'll get there eventually. But maybe some of those changes will have gone through and helped. But I would like to see some like the build defining abilities put on the legendary aspects and the uniques.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to like what the goal of the aspect system was of like, hey, you want to find a really good rare item and then add the power that you want to it. I think the problem is really it's just there aren't really good rares. It's there are some. I just think
Yeah.
like items themselves need a pass. They need a little bit more to them.
Have you been watching Carbot Animation's Diablo 4 series of videos?
It's came up a few times. I've seen like some of the ones from back in the day, but I have not seen the most
Yeah.
recent.
The Diablo 4 ones are pretty on the nose. One of the most recent ones was a barbarian going through, like, killing a whole bunch of stuff, uh, shoving all of the gear into his mouth, coming to town, regurgitating it all on the floor, sitting down, putting on his glasses and the reading light, and then looking at the paragraph long stat blocks on all of the items to go through and compare them, and having to like really go through and see which one of these two items are actually like better. And I think a lot of that comes down to there's just too many damage bonuses, like especially now with like the streamlining of the damage buckets and such, where like it legitimately does not matter. You know, crit damage is equal to vulnerable damage is equal to damage to cold, the damage to stunned, and bone skill damage. So you just take whatever numbers add up to be the highest, as long as you can effectively apply like vulnerable, and things like that. And so I think that there definitely needs to be a pass, and that long list of like damage bonuses could probably be like shrunken down. And I'm gonna say this is a point that on my old show, the Westmarch Workshop, I harped on for probably damn near a decade. Plus elemental damage is garbage and just needs to go away. It's like it's just plus damage, but only use this one element. It's build, restricting more than build defining. Because it's like it really your numbers go up. Equip this piece, and that there's more interesting things that could be done. You don't need plus shadow damage, plus darkness damage, plus damage over time. You could you know just keep like plus shadow or just keep plus damage over time. Get rid of all the other little ones.
Right. Plus
It
damage
just
to injured, plus
yeah.
damage to crowd
Well,
control, plus damage.
I would say plus damage to injured because it's not always online is a much more interesting stat, because you can say like plus 10 damage to bone skills and then like plus 30 damage or plus 40 damage to injured, and that becomes an interesting like item choice. I think because of the restrictions of when that damage bonus goes through and triggers, and it's not useful for farm content because you're one-shotting everything, but it might be a lot more interesting for say like Uber Lilith. That those are like some considerations that could go through and come in, because then you can add in, you could have a whole bunch of plus injured damage, and then you have a unique that causes injured to trigger at like 50% health. Like little things like that. But yeah, I think one of the biggest improvements that they can make to itemization is just readability, and a lot of that could be accomplished by just shrinking choices. get rid of a lot of the fluff, and then you can just, instead of actually having like this piece of gear is only useful if I have overpower, vulnerable, crit damage, and damage to slowed enemies, to where I only get like one or two damage choices, and then now I have to look at, dodge chance and resistance, and maybe like some sort of like resource generation, like barrier increase or fortified generation, reducing those, because that was one of the things like with Diablo 2 was like your damage was like really just plus skill or like attack speed or like crit chance, because strength, even though it did technically increase your damage, it didn't do it in any effective way to like be incredibly useful. And so a lot of your gear choices were, uh, kind of playing Tetris with your strength dex allocations to equip your gear. But then it was like, let me min max like my resistances, or I need a certain number of like hit recovery or faster cast rate and such. And so it was creating the interplay between the kind of like more interesting stats that had nothing to do with like your build's damage, but then still effectively made your build play better. So doing more of that. Let's get rid of 75% of all the damage stats that we have in the game right now, and
Yeah.
focus on some of the other stuff.
Yeah. Well, we fixed it. Uh, no, but I do think it is the missing piece. Um, I think right now in its current state, as we kind of alluded, like I I stopped playing, eh, you know, season one without really hitting a lot of the goals I initially set out for in season one. Season two doesn't feel like that. So even in its current state, I plan on, chugging away through this and trying every class, because it is very fun to play at the moment. That's just the piece that once it, once it is cemented, then we're locked in. Like this, then this game is everything that we had kind of hoped for. Um,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I feel like after this patch and where we're going, and we'll see in a few weeks what the roadmap is for Diablo. Um, I feel like they can do it. I feel like because season two, like if we're looking at the timetable, I apologize. Here I am, just coughing here. Um, but like season two was basically in the works with development, right? We've have two teams. Uh, Season of Malignant was the first go. And then season two's theme and all that kind of stuff have been cooked and ready to go. Um, Obviously, it had gone back and they've added a few things because they got a little bit more time than what the season one team did.
Yeah.
But season three, that's gonna be one that's been cooking for since release. And then season four, I think we got enough time that, like I said, five or six,
Hmm.
maybe we're getting a pass at this, and then we've got a we've got a really solid Diablo game.
Yeah. I
We
want
have
to
a
say
solid
that,
Diablo game
yeah.
now.
Yeah, we have a solid Diablo game now. I think season two really showed, and you had mentioned it earlier. You can really see it in the sentiment of the community. The season two really went through and showed that um, the developers are listening to the community concerns. They're going through and they're looking, because the developers themselves, they've always been capable. They've always known what it is that they need to do, for the game. Or I should say, how should I phrase it? They know what they're doing, but they might not know what they need to do. And a lot of that is coming through the player feedback, and they're listening, distilling, the what the community itself is looking for, and that's what they're going through and doing. As you mentioned, itemization, that's not a season three thing. Maybe maybe it's an expansion one thing, maybe it's an expansion two thing. We don't know how much longer down the line it might be, but at least it's going through and showing that they can make the game better, that they can change things around, that maybe we didn't even know to ask for, but it still answers our question of like making making the game a lot funner to play. Like it doesn't leveling doesn't feel like a drag. The inclusion of the vampiric zones gives you an additional thing to do. You still want to go through and farm nightmare dungeons. You still want to put some time. Actually, you probably want to put a little bit more time into Hell Tides now that you can go through and summon the boss. You want to if there's an item that drops off of Zur, you want to do Legions events and world bosses. I've always had fun with them. I don't care. But yeah, they've got they're and I think that is the thing that's resonating most with like the community, whether they're actually putting it into words or not, is that they really are like addressing the community's concerns, and that is probably like one of the biggest takes, because I can tell you that's one thing over on the World of Warcraft side, that there has been ebb and flow about the developers responding properly to player feedback, and like the players are going through and saying that these are some of our concerns with the community, and the developers being like, we hear you, but we're not going to do anything about it. And it costing them. Final Fantasy 14 is a lot more popular nowadays, not because of what Final Fantasy 14 had to offer, but because of what World of Warcraft didn't have to offer. And so it got people to break subscriptions and try other things. And so it definitely is. It's always important to listen to what it is that your community is telling you, as far as like the issues that they're having in the game.
Yeah, I mean, I brought it up before. We are in the good pendulum side, right? With Diablo,
Mm-hmm.
it's always a pendulum that swings back and forth. This is a week after the release of the season. People are going through, they're farming their stuff, they're enjoying, we have the trading debacle, but for the most part, people are having fun. Now, 2 to 3 weeks from now, all that's new will eventually be old,
Mm-hmm.
and the complaints are going to swing back a little bit more. Um, that's just the kind of like that's the cycle of every seasonal game. The path deals with this all the time too. That a couple weeks down the road, people want to complain a little bit more logical. But what the developers do with that feedback and do with those complaints is going to be key, for future development and where the game is going. And coincidentally, a couple weeks from now, we got some big news happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to get a BlizzCon. Uh, I'm not going, as is tradition.
As is
Um,
tradition.
I want to make it out there someday. Life has a tendency to get in the way, but you're going. So,
Mm-hmm.
Nightball, what is your hope? And then what's your expectation for Diablo at BlizzCon?
I mean, honestly, if we want to take, Rod Ferguson's comments to heart, as a literal face value of yearly expansions, I would expect that they're going to announce next year's expansion at BlizzCon. If that was like meant to be taken as a literal statement and not we are hoping, for yearly expansions. Like I think 10 years ago, I think it was even still like when Ghostcrawler was on the World of Warcraft team. They said they wanted to push out an expansion every 2 years, and that didn't happen. Until like a couple of years ago, I think Shadowlands. Uh, we'll go through and we'll see. So if they are going to hit an expansion next year, I think it will be announced at BlizzCon, because it'd be the perfect time to do it. I'm sure we will also see season 3 unveiled. And I would think that regardless whether we get an expansion or not, I think that we will get an announcement of the next class at BlizzCon, one way or the other. Um, you know, and that's kind of my expectations.
I feel like that's fair and measured. Um, and it seems pretty logical too. One thing I always hate is whenever you know about the next new thing while you're still
Hmm.
playing the old thing. Um, like nothing takes me out of a season faster than finding out what the next season's gonna have. Or it's like, oh, that would be awesome if I had that right now. Um, and I get why we heard about season two so early because season one was not so hot. But if we didn't find season three, I didn't find out season three right away, and they just did the expansion and new class reveal, I would be totally okay with that. I would love to just be like, we'll talk about season three soon. It's gonna be awesome. But it's also their marquee event. So being able to
Yeah.
show more things. Um, Out of all the other games that Blizzard has right now, obviously Diablo 4 is the most recent. We got expansions that would make logical sense. Is there any other thing that they could announce off the top of your head for any other game?
Uh, Hearthstone does like 4 expansions a year, so that's like a shoe in there. Um, Heroes of the Storm got a patch today, like a big one too. Like that would bring some warmth to my heart for sure to go through and see even a mini revival of being like it's not like back, but we'll do like one hero a year. I'll take it. I'd be happy with that. And please make it ethereal because I just need to complete the Anguirus Council. That's all I ask, please. Um, beyond that, I actually like legitimately can't remember when Dragonflight came out, so I don't know if it's early enough for them to do a new expansion announcement or not. I don't know. And Overwatch. Yeah, I forgot. Overwatch is the thing. So yeah, I'm sure there'll be like a season announcement and a new hero for Overwatch because that's just kind of like its thing now, right? Yeah, I am wondering though, if they're going to go through and showcase Diablo Immortal. Like, I feel as if Diablo Immortal deserves like the placement there. The game has come a very, very far way. Um, and but it's just there's a lot of um uh history, I'll say, between Diablo Immortal and BlizzCon's. So we'll see how they decide to go through and handle that one.
Maybe that's a
Uh,
separate side stage kind of thing, not
yeah,
not a main stager.
yeah. There's also, I guess, WoW Classic. They're wrapping up Wrath of the Lich King now with Ice Crown, which would mean Cataclysm is next. There's been a lot of talks and discussion that they'll do a WoW Classic Plus, and so they will keep kind of like the old school talent trees and game systems that went through and changed. Um, Going into I think it was either Cataclysm or Mists of Pandaria that they changed how talents work and such, and they changed a lot of like some of the back end stuff in the game. If they just like, well, what would happen if we went a different way? What would happen if we never did Cataclysm and instead did something else? And so there's been some talk about that. But then there was talk about that type of stuff from when WoW Classic was originally announced many years ago. So that could very well just be rumors. And the survival game. That kind of like pseudo fantasy. Uh, I honestly, what was it? There's like two pieces of concept art, and that's about it. Like it looked almost kind of like Horizon Zero Dawn because it's like all
Yeah.
in wilderness, but it had like some like robotics or something like that. I want to say, or I'm just having a fever dream,
No,
misremembering things.
no,
Uh,
I recall something like that. I still
yeah.
feel like that's so early. I mean, maybe it's a surprise, and they're like, "Hey, we got a new game," but yeah, that seems. What about wasn't there another Warcraft? It was like Rumble or something like that,
Oh yeah, yeah. The ArcLight Rumble or what Warcraft Rumble. I believe it
right?
literally launches at BlizzCon.
Oh, well, there we go.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, the point of that obviously is to just kind of think like in the absence of everything else, like the major announcement coming from BlizzCon, a Diablo expansion seems logical. Um,
Yeah.
like, hey, we got some new stuff cooking. We still got a lot of hype around the work that they put in June and the months preceding it. Let's build off that and let's not lose interest. And what's going to get people coming back to Diablo 4 that might have dropped it? The one class that everybody's been clamoring for um, is got to be some form of a paladin, right?
Yeah.
And that will draw people right on back. And then, hey, we've had a couple seasons to get this thing going, and it's a lot better than what you remember.
Mm-hmm.
That seems logical to me. I would like to see it, and I look
Yeah.
forward to obviously watching. And I expect a lot of Discord messages as this whole thing's going down.
Yeah, because I want to say it rounds out the last two like major archetypes that aren't in the game: Sword and Board and Holy Warrior, or
Yeah,
just Holy class in general.
yeah. No, it would be nice. I'm reminded of a lot of the BlizzCon announcements preceding Diablo 3. Like, hey, it's a demon hunter, it's a monk. But this time there's an actual game where you get to go play it instead of just keep waiting for it to come out eventually.
Hmm.
That would be nice. I would like that. Um, oh, as we're winding down here, the one thing we forgot at the top end is Blizzard is encouraging people to donate blood in this season of Blood.
And it's funny. So this is actually something that impacts me in real life. That this promotion has now made me come to the understanding that so I was born in the UK in the 80s. Therefore, to the American government, I have mad cow disease, and therefore have never been able to donate blood in the United States. But someone has let me know that apparently last year they changed the law, and I no longer have mad cow disease. So I can once again actually donate blood in the U.S. No, I remember there was one other thing that disqualified me, and that was because I had I don't remember like there was a time period because I had lived in Europe and I had consumed like dairy products that I couldn't give blood. But that one was like a temporary restriction. Like I don't remember whether it was like within 5 years or within like
Hmm.
something along those lines. I'm pretty sure that I don't have to worry about those disqualifications anymore either.
So
But
get
yeah,
after it.
I got
I am on the list that I cannot donate blood. Um, there's a false positive in my blood, which a false positive for HIV, which is great news to get. Absolute great news. I got the packet from the Red Cross a week after I got married, um, and it doesn't come out and tell you that right away. Uh, they don't lead with a false positive for anybody
positive.
who's got
Yeah.
this. Like they don't lead into that. You get a packet that's like this thick. But I am banned from giving blood for life because of that. So I can't help you guys out. But uh, it's ironic. My wife works in the blood industry. 666 pints of blood. Um, is actually not a lot when you look at it from the entire US. But the
Yeah.
second that that is hit, there's a bunch of cosmetics that everybody gets, and then everybody gets to enter in for a pretty sweet looking PC that actually has human blood in it. So that's an interesting thing. I sent it to my wife after I saw the announcement. She's like, "Oh, that sounds really cool," except for the PC thing, because like why? But if you can get out there and donate blood, any blood center. It's not particular. It does not have to be some of the major ones that are across the country. It can be your local one. It can be wherever you can get to. Just get there, get that proof, and then upload it. And I mean, we all get some fancy stuff, but then more importantly, you're helping save a life because that's the bigger goal. That blood goes somewhere. It goes to somebody who needs it. Um, and I said, with my wife working in the blood industry, I'm going to go into too much of a tangent. This isn't a blood podcast. This is a Diablo podcast, but it is a
Or a
super
season of blood.
yeah, season of blood. It is a super good cause. So go out there and donate away. Um, all right. So seasonal blood is awesome. It's a shame that NerdWords isn't here to just brag about how great the sorcerer is now, and I feel that for him, because I feel like he's earned it. He's earned this level of power. But that's okay. He'll chat with us soon. Any last thoughts, Nemo?
The devs obviously favor rogues because they get like the best butt transmogs from the seasonal journey yet again.
Um,
Um,
all right, so
and
there's a
that's
tangent.
yeah,
Listener,
yeah.
we're going to go just a little bit longer now because I was going to close out, but there's a tangent there. I want to point out that I'm still not going to buy any armor sets from the shop. I just I just can't because I'm always in uh, a werewolf or bear form,
Oh,
but I want to state that the newer sets that they've been putting out in this season have looked significantly better outside of the butt shots, right? Um, they've looked
I don't know. I
significantly
enjoy it.
better. Yeah. But they've looked so much better than what they had offered in the previous seasons. Like they just have like a higher level of polish. They look somewhat enticing, both for other reasons and just being visually appealing. They look really cool. Um, I will say that I have enjoyed also being able to change my town portal, and that to me feels like
Yes.
we're moving into a step of like finally maybe getting skill transmogs eventually. If we can change our town portal, maybe we can start changing again how a druid looks in a wild shape, colors of fireballs. Those are the things I will buy. Those are the things that to me feel worth it. Have you bought any of these new packs? Have you been tempted to buy these new packs outside of the Rogue Butt one?
So the rogue butt one is actually one of the free tracks on
Oh, it
the
is.
battle pass. Yeah. I don't. Oh, so there is also the other like provocative transmog that came out today. I
Yeah, that
was
just
just
got released
talking.
today.
Yeah, that just got released today. I was actually just talking about the free one on the battle pass because like last season, like it just showed off like a little bit of like the rogue's posterior. Well, this one shows off the whole thing. They actually cropped it up by like another 6 inches, so that way you get the full package there. So by like I think there was a funny post on Reddit I saw. By season 6, they'll be topless because it keeps just getting shorter and shorter every season. Um, so this does actually, I do have to follow up. I think legally, from the last episode where it's talking about, yeah, I'll pay the $10, for the seasonal pass. Well, I have to come clean. as a Blizzard partner, I did not know this. I was not expecting it, but Blizzard gave me a free premium pass for season 2. So there's a FTC disclosure there. So I got paid off for all of my opinions in this episode. So
So,
I was gonna give them $10 anyways, and they gave it to me. So all right, there.
well, actually, isn't it the premium one with the skips is 20, right?
Oh, yeah, 20, something like that. Yeah, that's
Uh,
true. So
but
there you go.
I don't want to crap on your parade, but I'm going to a little bit because I got it for free too, and I'm not a partner. I think I just encountered a bug. Um, because on day one,
I
I logged in and I was on PlayStation. I was like, oh, maybe I should, like how many, the difference between the platinum I had and maybe just getting the regular one, I'll do that. And no, there was a free one just sitting there and I took it. Um, I had used it last league or last season. Um, and it was there. So I feel special.
Yeah, yeah. I think what it was is that so the you got because you didn't get the accelerated battle pass, you just got the actual battle pass, right? Starting at level 1,
No, I got
or
the
you got the 20
accelerated.
skips. Okay, yeah, because some people were saying that it was because you also got just the regular battle pass with like the deluxe edition, and then you got the accelerated one with the ultimate, where you got the multiple ones. But yeah, hey, good for you.
Yeah, I'm not complaining. And if anybody at Blizzard is listening, please don't take that back. Don't charge me money. Um, I felt special, and I felt like I won in some ways. I want to point out that I think the 20 free skips should be something that you can apply whenever you want, not like 20
Yeah,
right away. I thought that was the goal of having the skips was like, oh, if you're getting close to the end of the season, you're running out of time, use your skips then, as opposed
yeah,
to immediately. Because that just always it felt weird in the first season, where I was like, where did I activate it? What happened? Um, and same kind of thing with this one, but since it was free, I wasn't going to complain. But here I am complaining anyway. Okay. Uh, Butts aside, fancy suits aside, let's close it out as we always do with a moo, moo, moo,
moo 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 moo.
moo.